All right, guys, this is a little bit different video than what I normally do. I got the opportunity to interview Charles from Verum Velo. If you're not familiar with Verum Velo, they are a premium wheel maker. This is a small company. Charles runs it. Charles builds the wheels and selects all the materials. And he has some really good, passionate thoughts about tubeless tape and why this is actually causing a major issue with setting up tubeless and maintaining tubeless, and why he chooses to build wheels without any tubeless tape in it. So I wanted to take this opportunity to talk with him and share this with you guys, because if you're looking for a true premium set of wheels, whether it's road bike, gravel bike, or mountain bike, Charles can build these wheels for you. And if you watched my Quarry Stave build, you'll know that I used some of his wheels with Berd spokes and erase hubs that he built up on that build. And those wheels are phenomenal. Not only that, I actually used them on the Rage Bait video also, where he built up a set of 32-inch wheels for a mountain bike. All right, guys, let's not waste any more time. I hope you guys enjoy this, and let's go ahead and let's get started. All right, well, welcome guys. This is kind of a different video than what I traditionally do on my channel. And today I am getting the privilege to introduce you guys to Charles, who actually owns and runs Verum Velos, and he actually has another business where he does wheel repair. And we kind of want to talk about how tubeless tape is kind of like a big downfall in the whole tubeless part of your wheel. Like, it's causing a lot more kind of probably anxiety whenever you go tubeless, and it's also can potentially be causing quite a few issues with your wheels that you've had for, say, a couple of years. So I'm going to let Charles kind of introduce himself here and talk about his company, and then kind of give us some insight of why he went with wheels that don't have tubeless tape in them and how that all works. So Charles, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for doing this. I'm like super excited to be going on my favorite rant. Essentially. But we talked about it before, like I hate tubeless tape, right? And that really is like, Verum Velo is sort of my passion project, right? Like it's as a wheel builder, to reach the point where I can curate every aspect of the wheels exactly the way I want is pretty awesome. But my disdain for tubeless tape really comes from my other business, where I do custom wheel building and wheel repair locally here in San Diego. And so, like Verum winds up sort of being a byproduct of all that experience, in the sense that everything I hated, and all the limitations of other stuff has, sort of informed how I curate the Verum wheels. Like the most obvious thing when you opened up your box and got your wheels out was that, oh shoot, these don't require tubeless tape. And the reason is that I hate tubeless tape. Like I've had to deal with it, for over a decade now, on, all the high-end wheels that I do service and repair to. And tubeless sealants are brilliant now, right? We have a wonderful array of sealants we can use, right? Um, Tubeless tires are awesome, right? And we've got like just this great, selection of tubeless tires that we can choose. It definitely makes, um, the, like tuning the ride quality of our wheels and tires, just like everything's so much better. But that tape sucks, right? And so, with Verum, it was easy choice. We had the choice when we were specking the rims. Do we want those holes in there or not? Right. And that's just the the access hole that they drill in the rim well. So, this is the well of the rim, right? So you can have that access hole or not. Only one reason to have that hole, and it's to make wheel building easier, wheel manufacturing. Yeah. This hole has no benefit except to help me load a nipple, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
so I didn't invent wheels without holes in the rim well. We saw that UST or whatever from Mavic back in, I think it was the 90s, and that a lot of the campy wheels do it. I think currently, like Verum does it, of course, but I think Princeton Carbon Works. I don't think their wheels require tape. So it's a choice that manufacturers can make, right? And it does add some complexity to wheel assembly, right? But the benefit of that extra work is that, like it accrues for the life of the wheels. You don't ever have to deal with that crappy tubeless tape. So
Yeah, I can tell you my personal experience today. I actually I have a bike that I'm reviewing and it can go tubeless, and so I wanted to make it tubeless, and I absolutely hated putting the tape on because the wheel, the inside of the wheel, like what's the center channel of the wheel was so deep that the tape didn't want to fold properly into it. And there's only a few brands of tape that I actually legitimately am like, okay, I'm going to work with these particular types of tape because they're the only ones that are flexible. But then sometimes they don't stick to the rim all that well. And then you get creases, and then you're like, that's where sealant's going to go right through there. And then I'm going to see problems. And so when I first set up these wheels on my Quarry Stave from you, I was just like, this is the easiest thing ever. It literally is. It made me determine that tubeless tape was the struggle that I've always had, because you've got to be careful with it too. You can't just be like, you can't just put the tire on there and push it around, because then it could peel up the tape. And
yeah, so let's get into some of the problems of tubeless tape, right? Like I got my little list here. Thing on, good to go. But like, so why does this guy hate tubeless tape? Well, it's because I've had to repair. Like, think about dealing with it with your own bike, and then put yourself in my shoes, where I'm repairing wheels all the time, right?
Yeah.
Doing rebuilds, or broken spoke replacement or whatever. Okay, so what should I charge to replace a broken spoke? Well, it's not a lot of labor, right? But it's more than twice the labor if I have to peel off tubeless tape and then clean a rim with acetone and alcohol and all this stuff to get all the old stuff off and then retouch it. Right, that's more work than replacing the spoke. So there's that problem, but that's what I've dealt with all this time. And so the things I see are, like tubeless tape leaks. Right, it almost always leaks. Now there are exceptions, right? But I think most of those exceptions are down to, really good installation and then some luck, right? Because, um, as it's like, it's relatively easy to damage it. If a little of that adhesive on the edge kind of clings to the tire and you're trying to dislodge your tire, you'll peel up the tape. If your tire's tight and you got to get in there with a tire lever, sometimes you can scratch the tape or peel it up with a tire lever. So it's easy to damage. I have this thing, I'm a wheel builder, right? Like, so this is like my happy place and what I love. And so, you'll hear a lot of people say, that like the best upgrade you can make to your bike is a set of wheels, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot.
Like, I really wish that were true, but it's not true. Because the truth is, and you'll know this as soon as I say it, the number one upgrade you can make to your bike is to get your tire pressure right. Right? It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't need a guy like me to help you with it. Just like, get your tire pressure right. Use one of the online calculators. There are a bunch of them now, that some are really good, and you can really really dial in that tire pressure. Well, if your tubeless tape is leaking, then your tire pressure is inconsistent, right? And so I think that's one of the, like, if we're talking about, high performance bikes and sort of the marginal benefits of some technologies and stuff. Well, tire pressure, if I'm right, maybe you disagree or others will disagree, but I think tire pressure is the best upgrade you can make, right? Just get your tire pressure right. Well, if your tire pressure is inconsistent because your tape's leaking, then you said it right at the beginning of your ride. Oh, I got my, super accurate pump, and I'm checking my pump, and, getting the tire pressure complete. I'm a half pound heavy, higher in the back than I am in the front, or, whatever. Well, go ahead and get it dialed in. But if your tape's leaking, the tire pressure is going to bleed off. And so, if you get, good tape adhesion, or, a wheel that doesn't require tape, then your tire pressure is going to be more consistent. It'll do a couple other things for you too. There, I think, real benefits. One of the unintended benefits of this, absence of tubeless tape that we incorporate into the Verum wheels is that I found on my own bikes that the sealant just lasts so much longer. And you'll see, you haven't had yours that long, but you'll see this, you know, it's like that sealant that was lasting 3 months is now gone 5 or 6 months, and some of the sealants will last much longer than that now. And so you get better performance out of your sealant. You have more consistent tire pressure. And so when your tubeless tape leaks, where's the sealant going?
Yeah. I'm assuming in the middle of your rim. That's where, because it always comes out the spoke nipples. It's like you got that mystery leak. Like, where's this coming from?
It's inside the rim cavity. I don't know if you can see that. I know
Yeah.
I sent you a picture of it, but this is like one of my favorite samples, right? Because I finally found, I knew this would happen, right? Like, think about, like, we've all seen this, right? We've all
Yeah, right.
found one of these pool of dried sealant in our tire, right?
Uh-huh.
And you don't want to leave this there. When I pulled this out of this tire, I threw it on the scale. It weighed 17 grams, right?
Whoa.
It weighs 10 grams now because it's all dried out, and I've been
Right.
taking it everywhere with me, and showing it to anybody who will listen. But so that'll throw your tire out of balance, right? You won't feel it at low speed, but at high speed you can get that kind of womp womp, from the tire
Mm-hmm.
being out of balance. Uh, this is pretty easy to peel out of a tire,
Right.
right? Took the tire off. The tire was still good. I was going to reuse it.
Uh-huh.
But try and get it out of here. And so just like, this wheel sat around long enough for this to pool up and dry, you can have that weight imbalance in there, all that dried sealant in there. Actually, until you cut it up and pull the tape off, it's not going to dry. It's going to stay wet, so it's even heavier, right?
Right.
So you can have those weight imbalances, and that stinks with a expensive high performance rim.
I can only imagine that if a lot of people buy expensive rims, they plan on keeping them for years. And so multiple sealant changes every 3 months, 6 months, and it just keeps adding up. And eventually your light wheels have 20, 30 extra grams of weight in them.
Yeah, probably more. Like over years, I wouldn't be surprised if it was more. So the other challenge we have with sealant when it leaks is, sealant's corrosive. Most of it's corrosive. It's a lot of it's ammonia based, right? And so it will just dissolve aluminum nipples, right?
Oh, wow.
It just starts eating away at them, and so you'll have the head of the nipple crack. These came out of a wheel where the guy brought the wheel. It wasn't breaking spokes or nipples, right? But he wanted me to true the wheel, and I couldn't true it because the spoke nipples were frozen to the spokes because so much sealant had coated the inside of this round. In this case, it doesn't matter if I've used a brass nipple or an alloy nipple. That sealant's going to cause that spoke to freeze to the nipple, and I'm not going to be able to true it. So my solution for this poor guy was, oh yeah, I can true your wheel as soon as I cut it up and replace all the spokes. That was a terrible thing to have to do. Otherwise a wheel that I should have just been able to true.
So let me ask you this. So like you said that the spoke nipple holes in the rim are primarily for speeding up actually building a wheel. So like for you, if you had a wheel with holes in them versus ones like what you have where there's no tape, no holes, they're just you have to do the little magnet thing to actually get it to work. How much more time, you being a professional wheel builder, does it take you to actually lace up a wheel like what you have versus one that has holes in it?
So it essentially adds 15 minutes to a wheel build, right? And you say, oh geez, 15 minutes for a lifetime of benefit, right? For an expensive set of wheels that you can keep for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And on the surface, that seems like an obvious choice. It was an obvious choice to me when I was speccing my rims, right? I did not think twice about it. It was just like, oh yeah, duh, that's what we're going to do. But think about, in a production wheel environment where, a wheel is getting built every 15 or 20 minutes, right? Well, yeah, now you're asking a wheel manufacturer to double the time they're spending building a wheel, right?
Yeah.
But that's not in the cards for some. And I get it, like you know, in a, you know, sub $1,000 wheel set, maybe I could see like, oh yeah, it's probably not practical to, implement that, you know, that, uh, that, sort of extra work that's involved in loading the nipples, right? For wheel sets over $1,000, and many wheel sets over, $2,000.
Yeah, and I do agree. I think over a certain price point, we wheel manufacturers should kind of like respect the consumer to say, hey, you paid a premium, you're getting a premium product that's going to benefit you in ways that you probably don't really know.
Right. Yeah, right. And that's the thing is like if nobody ever had a hassle with tubeless tape, then I wouldn't get the response that I do. Like, oh my God, you don't have to use tubeless tape? Like that I gotta say, like this is one of the challenges of it, like the business I'm in, right? It's like I'm really carefully handcrafting wheels, right? And this feature, yeah, no tubeless tape. That's the feature everybody notices, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Right.
you know, that feature is really just an expression of like our values as a brand, right? Like, we care about cyclists. We want to, reduce the friction, essentially, get some of the hassles out of the way, give you a better experience.
Yeah, and I mean I've seen other solutions and I'd kind of like to get your opinion on it. Like I've seen like um there's some brands out there that have like a sleeve that go in there. What are there benefits, downfalls to a solution like that?
So I thought that was like really innovative when I first saw it. And then I had a wheel in for service that had that feature on it, right? And I had to, take that off to, access the rim and do the spoke repair that I was doing, then snap the thing back on. While I had it off, I waited,
Oh,
right? And it's like, oh, so I'm gonna say this is like one of my complaints about tubeless tape, right? Is that it's heavy. And I say,
right.
okay, well, it's not really that heavy, but like if on a mountain bike, the tape tends to be fairly wide, right? And like a single layer of tape can weigh 15 to 20 grams, right? Okay, so like I've got if I have these holes, right? Okay, now I have to use a brass nipple so the nipples don't get ruined, right? It's not going to stop them from freezing, but at least they won't get eaten away. Then I got to use tubeless tape, so it's 10 grams, another 20 grams. Some tape's heavier, could be more than that, right? But again, we're talking about premium wheels, and
Right.
right out of the gate, I'm having to add 30 grams to each wheel because I want this hole in there so I can make wheel building easier. Sort of plastic sleeve or whatever went over it. It's like, okay, yeah, now you don't need tubeless tape, but that sleeve weighed, I want to say it was 140 grams, right?
Oh,
So we've taken a really lightweight, it was a carbon rim, really lightweight carbon rim, and we've, added, you know, I don't know, if a typical carbon mountain bike rim weighs 350 to 400 grams, somewhere in there. Some were heavier, some were lighter, but it's around there. Well, then does that represent 30% of the weight? You know, my lightweight carbon rim, I've just burned it. Now it weighs what an aluminum rim weighs. Well, the other thing that really bugged me about those is that, when you put on the brakes, right, we're stopping the rotor, which stops the hub, and then all the spokes get kind of wound up, and then it stops the rim, right? And with that, I could see that little sleeve or whatever, I don't even know what to call the thing, but um, it would slide back and forth like under the braking load because the tire is like trying to, kind of attach it to the rim just with the tire pressure, but I could see that it would move, right? Because there were just witness marks all over the inside of the plastic and on the rim from that thing sliding back and forth. And that's probably in part of the product of it having been on a mountain bike rim and run at relatively low pressure.
Yeah, it sounds like they tried to come up with a good solution, but the weight, I didn't even think about the weight. That's pretty heavy.
It's really heavy. You mentioned this earlier too, and this is another problem with you know with trying to get tubeless tape on, or why it's such a pain, right? And I don't know how well you'll be able to see this here, but there's old dried sealant all over this thing, right? And particularly this one, because it's got this patch in it, um, it's really hard for tape to seal around this, and so the sealant just fills in there. And then because the profile of this rim, as you mentioned, if there's like a 90-degree edge here, right, it's really hard to get the tape to lay down. And if you don't mind, really careful in cleaning everything, right? A lot of times it's acetone that you have to use to get this stuff off, right? Um, some of the stuff, actually the best thing to clean it with is water, right? But it's like not all sealants are the same, and so you're kind of always fumbling to figure out, and how can I get this thing clean? And then once I get it clean, can I get the tape to lay down? And if I don't mind, spending an extra day, then I can put an inner tube in, mount the tire, pressurize the inner tube to whatever the highest tire pressure is, right? And we can try and get that tape to lay down. But in a shape like this, it's still not going to lay down, right? And in most others, if you get a nice smooth transition from the well up onto the ledge, right? Then if you use that inner tube approach, just pump it up and let it sit for 24 hours, and then I'll install my tire tomorrow. And you got to get them clean for the tape to adhere. Right? It's just, so uh, I just like, this is why I'm so mad, about tubeless tape, right? It's because, like, why should anybody have to put up with it? Again, especially on a premium wheel. And that's sort of the mindset I'm in. Yeah. There's a place for production wheels, right? Like, not all bike wheels should cost what our wheels cost, or and I don't know. I think in the carbon space we're kind of mid price. We're not the cheapest, we're not the most expensive, but they're still, at the end of the day, I look at them, well, it's a pretty expensive wheel.
Yeah, well, it's an upgrade. It's a big upgrade, and I think that's what people want whenever they purchase a set of wheels. They don't want just a slightly upgraded set of wheels from what they had on their bike. If they're looking at a carbon wheel, they're a consumer that is wanting something premium, and they want that premium feel. And if it takes you 15 more minutes, but it saves me years of turmoil or frustration with my wheel set, it's worth it.
you know, for me, like that's kind of the bottom line. It's like, I hate the stuff, they have that, they used to saw it on that slide deck I sent you, but the TTS thing is like, I say it's kind of tongue in cheek, it's our TTS technology. It really just means tubeless tape sucks. So, it's not a technology. I can't patent it. I don't have any IP, it's just like, I can do it. Anybody can do it. The only thing stopping, you know, wheel manufacturers from taking this approach is whether or not they want to do the extra work. And I think for what we're asking, in general, for premium wheels, right? Yeah, we should probably do the extra work.
Yeah, and I greatly appreciate it. I mean, I think it's really cool to have that kind of side of the bike industry where if you're going to pay for a premium product, you're going to get an actual premium product. But what I know from my experience, I know what wheels you have on your website, and my viewers know about your mountain bike wheels. But what other kind of wheels do you sell on your website?
Oh, so yeah, so we do, we use this same approach for road wheels, gravel wheels, mountain bike wheels. I've, what I consider, sort of two categories of gravel wheels. There's, sort of like race-oriented gravel wheels that tend to be a, aero profile, and then I have some, sort of low profile, more off-road oriented gravel wheels, or like for bike packing and stuff like that. One of the things I'm really proud of is that we offer the wheels and virtually all spoke counts above 28 spokes. You know I admit I know I'm swimming upstream a little bit, but I won't love a 24 spoke disc wheel. Like I say that I've done it. I do it all the time in a custom space, because if somebody wants one of these premium brand carbon rims that isn't from Verum, then I'm doing a custom build with those. A lot of them are only available in 24 spoke. If it's a road rim, uh, some of the gravel rims are only available in 24 spoke, and I just don't think that's enough spokes for all the work that a disc brake wheel is doing. And like part of me is just like, there's 100 brands out there that'll sell you a 24 spoke wheel if that's what you want. Kind of don't need me to do it, right? So, but one of the things I'm really proud of is being able to offer like all these these same rims, but I can offer them in you know uh, 28, 32, 36 spoke. Custom orders, we can do higher spoke counts than that, but it's pretty rare. And with the quality of spokes and hubs these days, doing much more than 36 is generally isn't necessary. But for the bike packing crowd, if you're going to be, or you're doing endurance cycling, you're going to be out in the middle of nowhere, you know, God forbid you break a spoke. It sure might be nice to just ride on, right? As opposed to, having to stop and your wheel goes so far out of true that, it won't turn in your frame or whatever. A lot of us are kind of pushing the limits of, the tire clearance within our frames these days, so, you know,
So that having that higher spoke count, I never thought about that, but having that higher spoke count, if you broke a spoke, you could keep riding. Where if you had like a really low spoke count, your wheel might start to go out of true. And
fix it when you get home, right? And, and there's, yeah, I don't know. I often say, like, I'm a wheel builder. I like spokes, like, and lots of them, right? It's just like, it's like, why would you want, a low spoke count wheel?
well, I love your passion about it. Like I nerd out about all this stuff, and like until I actually met you and talked to you and had several phone call conversations with you, it's like, wow, there's a lot to wheels that you don't think about. Like people just kind of put them on, take them for granted, maybe look at the weight of them, but really like until you talk to somebody like yourself who has done this for quite a while and has had, two businesses doing one repair and one selling what you feel is super high quality. And I fully agree. Your wheels are incredible. Like the ones that I have used have been incredible. But it's awesome to see that, because you go all the way down to the hub for what quality you want, all the way to the individual spokes, to the type of nipples that you're using, to the rim profile itself. I mean, there's so many little things, like the fact that you put a little bit of that silica lubricant in the valve so the sealant doesn't stick into that. I mean, there's just those little details that you don't see from other brands in your same price point.
Well, it's funny too, because like, all these years of doing it, it's still like it's one of my favorite things, just activities to do. Like, I love talking about wheels, right? And I like having my little business, but I'm a terrible businessman. Yeah, not great at marketing and all this stuff. But when I have a wheel in the jig, I'm in my happy place. It's like, for me, it's, when I hear people talk about, meditation and stuff like that, it's like, oh, that's what I'm experiencing when I build it. Yeah, that's why I love it, right? It's kind of like
Yeah.
everything else goes away, and I'm just thinking about what's happening here. Yeah.
Well, Charles, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about this and like tell us all this awesome information about it. And I can personally attest to these wheels were super easy to set up tubeless, and I would say by far the easiest wheels I've set up tubeless. Guys, if you want to check out his website, I'll put all that in the description below. But did you have anything that you wanted to say in addition?
Yeah, I know, but like it's great. Like it's great to hear from people, right? So if I'll follow the comments, and chime in, but also, feel free to reach out to me because it really is my favorite subject, So if you want to send me an email or give me a call, like just talk wheels, it's my bag. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm sure, hopefully you'll get some people to chat with about it and maybe pick up some of your wheels. So, all right. Well, thank you again. And guys, you know what to do. Get out there and ride your bike. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that interview. Again, this was something completely different. I feel super privileged to be able to interview Charles and talk to him about his thoughts on these wheels. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you're looking for a set of premium wheels, I highly recommend reaching out to Charles through the Verum Velo website. He is very passionate. Your wheels are going to be hand built and they're going to be built to precision. And I highly recommend, if you're wanting to spend your hard-earned money, to just go ahead and check his site out, because I can guarantee you that these wheels are going to be some of the highest premium quality wheels you've ever had. And if you have any trouble with them, I know that Charles is going to take care of you. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave me a comment down below. But as always, get out there and ride your bike.